Good morning. Welcome to a virtual boat tour with Blue Water Cruising Association. I'm Rhonda Schuller, and this, as it says, is Theodora. It's my home. I'm a live-aboard, and what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about Blue Water Cruising and why I joined and why this is the boat that I'm living aboard now. So I started my live-aboard life in 1999, so just over 20 years ago. And I started off on a much bigger boat, a power boat. It was an older Chris Craft, 1948 Chris Craft, 46 foot. I still had two kids living with me. And in the subsequent years, the most fun I had boating was on sailboats. So I decided that my retirement goal would be to learn to sail. And when I moved into this marina, which is a live-aboard marina, I met a number of people who belonged to Blue Water, and for sort of social reasons, I joined Blue Water Cruising and found that it offered me a lot of opportunity to learn a lot about all of the systems on boats and think about places and planning for where I could go and how I could enjoy a boat. I've had Theodora now for about 6 years. So retired about 4 years and found that she's been wonderful for local cruising. She's got more experience than I do. Theodora has been to Hawaii and back, which is when a lot of the offshore equipment was installed on this boat. So one of the things when you join Blue Water is the burgee. So I've got a burgee up on the line, the top one, which tells anyone around that this is a Blue Water cruising boat. And that burgee has meant that I've met many people through Desolation, the Gulf Islands, the Broughtons, around Vancouver Island, who have come over in dinghies or paddle boards to say hi, and just met people and had general conversations about who's been where and what conditions are good, what places to avoid, etc. So that's been one of the advantages for me of being part of Blue Water Cruising. It's extended the direct experience I have through the experience of others. So let's take a tour of Theodora up top. She is a 1988 Panda made in Taiwan, Taixing Shipyard, where a number of other Robert Perry designed boats were made. She's a full keel boat, which I really appreciate in local waters especially, because I know that the prop is well protected with that full keel in front of her, and the full rudder gives her a lot of very solid turning power. Everyone says boats are a trade-off, and for that handling really well, you get almost no reverse and not very quick maneuverability. So those were some of the things that I considered when I got this boat. Here in the bow, you can see it's a roller furler, Genoa. It's got standard sailboat features throughout, so the only things I'm going to mention are things that might be a little bit different and things that drew me to the simplicity of this boat. The anchor has a 250-foot chain, so quite heavy and quite sturdy. 250 feet of spare rode also in there. I typically keep a couple of inflatable kayaks on hand and use them most often when I'm out locally at Anchorage. And then I have an 11-foot dinghy, an Avon inflatable dinghy that I carry. The boat did have an offshore lifeboat right here, and that's where it would be mounted. Some of the reasons that Theodora is light and bright inside, especially for a small boat, sailboat, which I think of as being small, almost like basement apartments for live-aboards. Some of the features that keep it light are the hatches. I've got a forward hatch and a butterfly hatch, so big opening spaces. The butterfly can take breezes from the sides. This opens to the front, so at any time at anchor, because you're always blowing against the anchor, there's going to be breeze. Theodora also has 7 prisms, so these lights, there are 2 on the deck down here and then a number up in the cabin top. The prisms let in sunlight. Theodora has a number of bronze portholes. All of these portholes are functioning opening portholes. So there's a porthole up front and a porthole in the back of the cabin in the cockpit, as well as portholes on the side. So those are some of the things that keep it bright. This is a solar vent fan. This fan is mounted over the standalone shower in Theodora, and it helps keep condensation out of the boat. One of the issues for any boat, especially a live-aboard boat, is keeping that air, keeping the condensation down, keeping the air dry so that you don't get mold and mildew in the little corners. This is an example of one of the 4 dorades, or dorades, I'm not sure. They're designed to bring in fresh air into the boat, so you can see that there's plenty of turnover of air. Kind of standard, the mast has access up the steps. Welcome to the cockpit. So this is the driver's seat of Theodora. It has a number of features about it. Theodora has a very standard helm station, big wheel, very small chart plotter, and just a few instruments. So from here I can see the autopilot and the depth sounder, and also the engine oil pressure and temperature, and RPMs are visible from here. The features that make Theodora an offshore boat are the monitor wind vane. So this is a steering vane that can be set. It also has an autopilot that needs electricity to run or juice to run it. Theodora has an amp air wind generator. This amp air is the difference between keeping the refrigerator on when I'm at anchorage for a number of days or having to turn that refrigerator off. When underway, when sailing, part of the gear on Theodora is the self-tailing winches. There are 2 larger ones in the cockpit that I use for the foresail, and then there are a couple on the helm station that control the main, the traveler for the main, and then there are 3 or 4 on the mast for the main and the storm cellar, the trysail too, but all of them are self-tailing. So welcome to the inside of Theodora. Some of the features here from the cockpit. So we've just come in the companionway from the cockpit and come down the stairs. Under the stairs is where the engine is housed. So it's a very tiny little engine cavity. This is the engine about which my diesel mechanic instructor said, "It's engines like this that make me glad I'm retired and happy to coach, but not try to get my hands into those impossibly small spaces to do maintenance." So because Theodora is quite compact, the front of the engine, as I mentioned earlier, is accessible from under the cockpit, and this is actually the back end of the engine. So the transmission is right under this bottom step. It's a V-drive coming out, so I won't take that apart. And this is the quarter berth that goes way back. As a live-aboard, this becomes my garage and my attic, so you can see I've got a bunch of sort of stuff stowed in there. But I can tell you that my son's 6'4" friend can actually sleep in this quarter berth. This is the radar, which is really helpful along the coast, at least, in heavy, heavy fog. There is a fish finder, which I use as a backup depth sounder. Here's the speaker that's part of a radio, CD player, etc. The nav table is a standard for sailboats. And then the breaker panel is over here with both the alternating current and the direct current. And this is the VHF radio in here. Under the quarter berth is the power pack, the energy for the boat. So there are 3 100 amp batteries. One is designated for the windlass. Here are some of the reasons that I like Theodora as a live-aboard. It's quite comfortable. It's got a 6'4" headroom, so my sons can visit me and be comfortable too. and it gives me a sense of space and scale. I mentioned before that there are a number of lights on board, so some of them are dome lights here, some of them are LED lights around that you'll see. In the galley, everything is compact. This cavity is a refrigerator. It's open on the top and it opens from the front. The propane stove is a small 2-burner stove, complete with oven. I've used the oven 3 times in the 6 years I've had the boat. And the galley is shaped so that you can wedge yourself in and be safe when you're out in swells or in rolling water. So this sink is nice in that it's deep. It's a double sink, and it has some of the things that make it a nice liveaboard. It not only has an automatic pump, you can hear the water pump going on and off, so when I'm in shore power I use this. When I'm away, when I'm at anchor, it has the feature of fresh water. So this is a manual foot pump for fresh water, and this is a manual pump for salt water. So you can wash dishes, wash any number of things in salt water and rinse in fresh if you're trying to conserve fresh water. So welcome inside, a little bit forward in Theodora. So we're just forward of the galley here. And we have a settee and a dinette area. So underneath these 2 benches, underneath the settee and the dinette, are the water tanks. So stainless water tanks, 2 60-gallon water tanks. Underneath my feet, inside the keel, is the fuel, so 70 gallons of diesel here. Some of what makes Theodora comfortable as a liveaboard is what I call a bus heater underneath the dinette. So there's a heater mounted down here. And then, because it's winter, boat shows are always winter, I have a little oil-filled radiator just forward. So between the electric heater here and the electric radiator heat, Theodora stays quite comfortable. Remember the door aids for the fresh air up on top? You can see all of the cubbies along the side. So there's an amazing amount of storage in this boat. There's also storage behind and inside on both sides. So lots and lots of storage. There would be room if I wanted to put in a diesel heater here. Actually, a visible diesel heater. Theodora does have a diesel heater. It has a planar diesel heater. So the mechanism for that heater is under the cockpit, and the vents for the heater run alongside the dinette. So this is the head or the bathroom of Theodora. So as my daughter-in-law said, the boat is a little like a little gnome house. You notice all the doors are arched. So this is quite compact. It's got a manual flushing toilet and again lots of storage. The sink again has the pressure, plus it has a manual foot pump for fresh water. And Theodora, one of the nice features about her is she has a separate standalone shower cavity, which can be storage, like garage storage. So I mentioned the planar diesel heater. When that diesel heater is on, the line of warmth, of air comes down, terminates under the sink, and blows right into the shower. So if it happens to be really cold and rainy, any gear can come in, hang in the shower, drain into the shower bilge, and be dry next time you want to go out. So welcome to the front of Theodora. This is the V-berth, and some of the features that make, again, Theodora a very nice liveaboard are the fact that it has a door, so this cabin can shut off, meaning the head is accessible if someone is in the quarter berth, and still privacy back here. There's a hanging locker, which is always a nice feature on a boat. And the, again, opening portholes. This is where the forward hatch is for both wind and light. And the V-berth itself. In the very fore is the anchor locker, so access to the chain is through those louvered doors at the very front. There's more storage on the sides, lights. There's a little vent fan for very hot climates here. Under the V-berth, or the main bed here, is where the survival suits are, the spare anchor is, the storm sole, the trisole, and the spinnaker are stored in here. The holding tank for the head is in here, and other miscellaneous things. So lots of storage room in here. And that's pretty much it for Theodora. So thank you for dropping by. I appreciate the chance to give you a tour of Theodora, my home, my retirement home. The name Theodora, I think, comes from the fact that it is a panda sailboat. A panda is a bear, and teddy bears are well known thanks to Theodore Roosevelt, and the female version of Theodore is Theodora. So because she's a panda, she's a Theodora. One of the things I appreciate about my home is that it's mine wherever I've got 5.5 feet of water under me. And I appreciate Blue Water Cruising Association for helping me learn a lot about maintaining and using its systems, everything from rigging to diesel to electronics, as well as the mentoring and the friendships that help keep me out there on the coastal waters of BC.